The Palace of Solitude was bustling with tension as High King Torygg stood against Ulfric Stormcloak, who had challenged him to a duel for the throne of Skyrim, and consequently its independence from the Altmeri-controlled Empire. Torygg reluctantly took up his weapons and turned towards a foe he respected, but Ulfric merely looked at him and shouted, "Fus Radar!" With that, Torygg's body was torn apart, and a civil war erupted in Skyrim. Such martial solutions to complex problems could only occur amongst Nords, humanity's fierce and militarist race that inhabited the cold lands of Tamriel's north. Amongst snow and harsh conditions, these notorious warriors managed to build one of Tamriel's most resilient civilizations. Ever pragmatic but also superstitious, the Nords are one of Nirn's most recognizable races. But who are the Nords, and what is their culture and home like? That is the very question we will seek to answer in this video. Welcome to our 6th installment of our series on the races of the Land of Dawn's Beauty, in which we will explore the religion, culture and history of the children of Ysgramor. The Nords are one of the races of men of Tamriel, alongside Imperials, Redguards and Bretons. They are also called Northmen, or in the language of the dragons, Bronn. They are tall, fair-skinned and fair-haired people who live in the northern region of Tamriel, which is known as Skyrim. Populations of Nords can also be found in County Bruma in northern Cyrodiil, as well as in Solstheim, an island between Morrowind and Skyrim. The Nords on Solstheim are known as the Skull, and maintain old traditions that many Nords on the mainland have forgotten. Besides this, diasporas of Nords exist in almost all parts of Tamriel, especially in places where the work of warriors and mercenaries is required. The homeland of the Nords is a cold and unforgiving place, with high mountains like the throat of the world brimming with snow throughout the year. This harshness has made the mighty warriors exceptionally resistant to the cold, or any frost magic used against them. However, this does not mean that Skyrim is a barren and uncivilized place. Far from it, in fact. From the perpetual grey skies of Winterhold to the autumnal serene forests of Riften, Skyrim's natural geography is quite diverse. The region of Skyrim is divided into 9 holds, each with a capital city from where a local Jarl rules. These holds include Ismarch, where the city of Windhelm and the Stormcloak Rebellion are housed. There is also Folkruth, with a anonymous city and a large graveyard for Nords. Hafingar is where Skyrim's capital Solitude lies, and its famous College of Bards. There is Hjalmarch, with its centre at Morthal and its port. Another important hold is the Pale, with the capital of Dawnstar and its famous port. The west houses Wartorn Reach, with the capital of Markarth, while the south has the Rift, with Cozy Riften at its heart. The centre of Skyrim houses Whiterun, where the Companions are based. Last but not least, there is Winterhold, where the collapsed city of Winterhold and its College of Mages lie. The Nords are a militaristic people who live by a strong sense of honour and a love for fighting. They enjoy hunting and see it as a rite of passage, with snow wraiths being particularly important prey for any young Nord boy to kill in order to be considered a man. They are also skilled in military matters. Many famous organizations, like the Blades, which guard the Emperor of Cyrodiil, have had many famous Nords amongst them. Far from being one-note brutes, the Nords are also industrious and sturdy. Many Imperial chroniclers have mentioned how skilled Nords are in building wooden buildings and fortresses. Nords may be pragmatic, but they are also superstitious. Many of them fear werewolves, and the naming of Nordic children is based on omens. Nords are generally accepting of outsiders, but are an insular people who often come off as harsh to other men. For mare and beast folk, however, the Nords still harbour resentment, and even outright racism, due to centuries of wars and genocide occurring between the two peoples. Dunmer in Skyrim are often discriminated against, living in segregated quarters of Windhelm, while Khajiit are banned from entering the cities of Skyrim. Thus, the Nords are a people of contradictions, at times cool and at other moments deeply emotional. As we mentioned previously, the Nords have 9 holds in Skyrim. Each of these is run by a Jarl, a sort of duke role. The Jarls congregate in a council known as the Moot to make big decisions affecting all of Skyrim. These involve approving the rule of a High King ruling all of Skyrim, though when there is a strong king, there is nothing but rubber stamping. Some holds are more unstable than others. For instance, the Reach is home to a rebellion of a race of men known as the Reachmen, who oppose the Nords. In addition, each Jarl has considerable autonomy in his realm, a development stemming from Skyrim's centuries of fragmentation. The Nords often blame misfortunes on the Falmer or the Snow Elves, making them keenly aware of the dark deeds their ancestors performed to conquer Skyrim. This militaristic attitude also appears in their code of honor. Every action that wrongs someone must be met with retribution. Despite this militarism, the Nords are not an ungenerous or joyless people. In fact, they are notorious for their feasts and cuisine, where their famous bards sing epic poems. Bread and cheese are delicacies to those who dwell in the cold, as is the great beverage that is mead. Cakes, meat and fish are also emblematic of Nordic emphasis on the hearth and hunting. Thus, Nordic feasts are massive and hearty, fit for people who live hardcore lives as warriors. The cold climate of Skyrim is no obstacle to this happiness. Though they may appear cold, the Nords can be as fiery as a hot meal in their many festivals and parties. The origin of the Nords is complicated by the fact that while they have extensive folklore, they see the pursuit of historical accuracy in their creation myths as silly and a waste of time. Thus, trying to parse the historical truth in their highly embellished mythology is a challenge. From what we can attest, the original homeland of the Nords lies in a continent to the north of Skyrim known as Atmora. Some origin stories say that one of the Nordic gods, Kain, created humanity by breathing into the Aedra's descendants, known as the Elnofey, at Skyrim's throat of the world. These earliest ancestors of humankind then moved to Atmora. During the largely prehistoric Merethic era, Atmora was inhabited by men ruled by dragon kings and their dragon priests. Slowly, during the late Merethic and First eras, people began to migrate south by sailing the Sea of Ghosts and settling on the northern shores of Skyrim. The reason for this is that Atmora became too cold and rife with conflict for people to live there. The most well-known of these migrants was Ysgramor, a known warrior who may have been a dragon priest. Ysgramor settled in a city known as Sarthal, where elves and humans lived in peace. However, one night, known as the Night of Tears, the Snow Elves who lived in Skyrim massacred huge swaths of the human population. As the lone survivor alongside his two sons, Ysgramor resolved to avenge the massacre. A Nordic epic known as the Song of the Return says the following: "Our great lord Ysgramor, the harbinger of us all, did then send forth his two beloved sons, with him the only other survivors of the brutalities of Sarthal, to seek out the bravest warriors of the land and mount the great return. Ingol and Ilgar they were called, and they were known among Atmora as fine warriors with bright eyes and dawning futures. Ingol, the elder, was the brave strategist, bringing his learnings to bear on the battlefield that his enemies would be defeated before they even know the battle had begun. Ilgar, the younger, was possessed of an unwavering spirit that drove his singular prowess to overwhelming feats in war. Together, the mind and the arm, they were capable of sowing a destruction most thorough and glorious to any foe who stood before them." After gathering 500 skilled warriors from Atmora, Ysgramor returned to Skyrim and began to raise the continent. Many elves were slaughtered by his hand, and many new cities were founded in his wake. Ysgramor also warred against the giants who lived in the region of Skyrim, and slowly but surely established a human presence in Skyrim once more at the expense of the other races. After Ysgramor's death, his companions evolved into a group of mercenaries, known for their ferocity and also for hiding lycanthropic secrets. The wheel of time turned, and the first era came to Tamriel. Skyrim was now mostly inhabited by humans, but was broken into multiple statelets. The Nords' ancestors were ruled by the dragon priests and the dragons, who were particularly tyrannical. This led to the revolt of the humans, who, alongside some sympathetic dragons, fought a long and bitter war against dragonkind and their sycophantic priests. The pro-human dragons are said to have taught the Nords the Thum, or dragon voice, which was used to slay their dinosauric oppressors. Eventually, most dragons were killed off, and the dragon priests and their cultists went underground to temples, where they hid as zombified Draugr to await the resurrection of their lords. One of the dragons, Alduin, seemed unbeatable, but was shouted forward in time, and thus banished for the foreseeable future. At the same time, Skyrim was unifying, due to the power vacuum left behind by the dragon cult. A descendant of Ysgramor named Harold, a notorious warrior in his own right, managed to unite the region in First Era 143. He then completed the genocide of the Snow Elves, forcing them underground, where their twisted and bestialized descendants still roam today. Skyrim grew stronger and stronger until First Era 241, when another High King, Rage the Gifted, expanded the Empire to include most of High Rock and all of Morrowind. However, this would only last a century, as in First Era 369, King Borgas was killed by the Bossman, who invoked the Wild Hunt to oppose him and his imperialist goals. His death caused a civil war, which was only resolved in First Era 420 with the Pact of Chieftains and the splitting of Skyrim into multiple kingdoms. The Second Era brought the invasion of the Akaviri, whose unstoppable might caused even the Nords much difficulty. This was only solved with the unification of men of Tamriel under Reman Cyrodiil, respected by the Nords for his status as Dragonborn, a dragon-blooded hero with an imperial pedigree. The Nords were consequently subsumed into Reman's Cyrodiilic Empire and remained among its most loyal subjects until its collapse in Second Era 430. After this, Skyrim was split once more and faced another Akaviri invasion, only defeated by the combined forces of Nords, Dunmer and Argonians. Skyrim was practically divided into East and West during this time, with the East coming into the Ebonheart Pact with the Dunmer and Saxhleel. During this time, many factions were trying to conquer Cyrodiil, the heartland of Tamriel, and the key to forming a new empire. Eventually, the Nords and Bretons allied and tried to capture Cyrodiil in an invasion which led to the Battle of Sancre Tor. Here, a certain Tiber Septim managed to free the city from the invaders and demonstrated the power of his dragon voice, or Thu'um. This caused the Nords to submit to the Septim Empire, with many joining the Blades afterwards. Many Nords claimed Tiber Septim as their own, claiming he was born in Atmora, a fact disputed by the Bretons. Under Tiber Septim's Third Empire of Man, Skyrim remained a kingdom under imperial suzerainty, even joining in a rebellion led by the Septim necromantrix known as Queen Potema in the War of the Red Diamond. Skyrim also continued to expand in parts of High Rock and Morrowind, though by the Third Era, Nordic expansionism had mostly become a thing of the past. The relative peace of the Third Era was disturbed by the Oblivion Crisis, which caused the death of the last of the Septims. The coming of the Fourth Era brought troubling times for the Nords. The destruction of Orsinium in High Rock and the conquest of Morrowind by the Argonians caused a massive influx of refugees in Skyrim. The Nords reacted with prejudice and racism to these newcomers, due to their ingrained anti-Elvish settlement born from centuries of war fought against Merkine. However, more issues for Skyrim were brewing down south. In the imperial heartland of Cyrodiil, the Great War against the Altmeri Dominion saw the Altmer and their allies overwhelm the Empire of Man, forcing the Empire to sign the White Gold Concordat in 4th Era 175. This essentially made the Septim Empire a vassal of the Altmeri Dominion, and outlawed the worship of Talos, the deified form of Tiber Septim. This meant that Skyrim was essentially to be vassalized by the Altmeri Dominion as well. The Nords did not take kindly to this, and many ended up joining the rebellion of Ulfric Stormcloak in 4th Era 200. However, an even greater danger lay on the horizon, the dragon Alduin. Returning from his banishment, Alduin and his dragons sought to conquer and destroy the world of Nurn, a chaos far grander than any civil war. One person, however, stood as an obstacle, Dovahkiin. This noble warrior of mysterious origins was able to use the Thu'um naturally, a rare gift bestowed only at times of need. Through training with the Greybeards, the Dovahkiin defeated Alduin and saved the world, while resolving the civil war in Skyrim. Having provided an all too brief account of Nordic history, we will now move on to Nordic religion and culture. During the time of Ysgramor, the Nords practiced a totemic religion based on the worship of animals, namely the hawk, wolf, snake, moth, owl, whale, bear, fox, and dragon. This is evident from the totem statues found all over Skyrim. Some of these naturalistic beliefs can still be found in Solstheim, where the tribe known as the Skull worships nature. The Skull also hold to a dualist faith, that of the All-Maker and his enemy, the Adversary. As for the Nords in modern Skyrim, they have adopted the cult of the 8 or 9 divines, with their own unique martial and snowy flair. These deities include Kain, the storm goddess who created humanity and whose daughters taught the Nords the Thu'um, or storm voice. Her husband is Shor, god of the underworld, who fought elven deities, only to be tricked and killed by them. Mara is the goddess of love and Shor's concubine, while Dibella is the goddess of beauty. Stun is the god of ransom and Shor's shield thane, while Junal is the god of knowledge and runes. Orki is the god of death, while Alduin is the god of time and world eater. Stun is the god of reason and Shor's shield thane. For some Nords, Talos is considered the 9th divine and god of war, something which incurs the wrath of the Thalmor. The Nords also have 2 testing gods, Hermamora, the demon of knowledge, and Maulok, the demon of war. There is also another dead god named Sun, who guards the Whalebone Bridge in the afterlife, and guards people in their adversity. Nords also have a special place in paradise called Sovngarde. This realm is crossed by the Whalebone Bridge and leads to the Hall of Valor. There, Nords who have died in battle live forever in a never-ending feast of pleasures next to the god Shor. The rest of the dead go to the same realms as those of the Imperial pantheon. In fact, for many Nords, the worship of ancestors persists in some respects. Family tombs are given offerings during the Feast of the Dead on the 13th of Sun's dawn. The Nords used to worship dragons and the dragon cult, but their repression at the hands of these immortal lizards led to the Dragon War and their expulsion from Skyrim. The dragon's liaisons, the overpowered dragon priests, were mighty wizards who could muster the elements. The Nords defeated them using the Thu'um, or the dragon voice. Nowadays, few can use the voice, and it is only taught at the monastery of High Hrothgar in the Throat of the World. The monastery was founded by Jurgen the Calm, a Thu'um user who was horrified by the destruction wrought during the Nords' wars against the Dark Elves in the First Era. Considering the Nords' defeat at the Dark Elves' hands to be due to their arrogant use of the Thu'um, he developed the Way of the Voice, a philosophy that advised that the Thu'um only be used in times of need. The Greybeards are the guardians of his traditions, who meditate and learn the ways of Shor in seclusion in High Hrothgar. The Nords also preserve legends of the Dragonborn, or Dovahkiin. This chosen person is meant to come in times of need and become a great warrior. Through their reincarnation, they are destined to vanquish the enemies of Skyrim, and in so doing, embody everything a Nord aspires to be: noble, honourable, and fierce in battle. Nordic religion is thus a complex and highly historical affair. From the Cliffs of Solitude to the Fields of the Reach, Skyrim is a rich land inhabited by a people with an equally rich culture. With their warrior ethos and fierce determination, the Nords are infamous throughout all of Tamriel. Though they can often be cold and harsh, like all of the Empire's peoples, they are a nuanced and intelligent people. Their songs speak to their heroism and massive contribution to the history of the land of the Elder Scrolls. Next time you find yourself drinking a hearty mead, raise a glass to the Nords and shout as powerfully as the Thu'um allows, "It is a noble and fine pursuit." Whether as warriors or as bards, the Nords embody the harshness and beauty of Skyrim, mighty and unpredictable. This series will continue with a video on each of the major playable races of the Elder Scrolls games. To make sure you don't miss them, make sure you are subscribed and have pressed the bell button. Please consider liking, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Our videos would be impossible without our kind patrons and YouTube channel members, whose ranks you can join via the links in the description to know our schedule, get early access to our videos, access our Discord, and much more. This is the Wizards and Warriors channel, and we will catch you on the next one.